Easter. Welcome to Kaya Church. Today we're talking about our planet of the cross. It's Easter Sunday. This is the Sunday where Christians all over the world celebrate and honor the resurrection, which is the founding of the Christian faith, the founding institutional ideology, doctrine, and faith of Christianity, Jesus' resurrection. We're familiar with the movie The Passion of Christ, which demonstrates this passion that Jesus modeled, that movie that Mel Gibson produced that really went into a beautiful cinematic illustration of Jesus's crucifixion. And that angle, we see the story of the cross and the crucifixion as the suffering that Jesus went through the Catholic narrative, the Christian narrative of his suffering for the sins of the world, taking on the sins, taking on our suffering, taking on the wrath of God for this, taking on the wrath of God against the sins of the world. And we see the level of suffering that he had to endure, that Jesus, this innocent being, endured. And that movie was a powerful illustration that puts us back 2,000 years ago and gives us a very, very fresh, visceral look at what it was like for him to suffer and to see suffering and to see him go through the hardship of that pain and that agony that was required of him, according to in the Christian narrative, for our sins, and to take on that sin so we could meet the just requirement of God's law of wrath being appeased, of God's holiness that cannot tolerate sin, requires a sacrifice, and Jesus suffered plenty for all of us. That's the Christian narrative, that's the foundation. But today I want to present to you all something much, much different about the cross and the resurrection and the Jesus story. And it starts with understanding, what was Jesus here to do those 3 years? His ministry was only 3 years. It sounds like hard to believe that one of the most, our calendar date is reset because of Jesus' ministry, before Christ, after Christ. But this is a being that really only was ministering, teaching for 3 years. That's really short. Think about how really short that is to have this long-lasting influence. So what was he doing for 3 years? Was he living for 3 years to show and demonstrate that he was God? Was he living for 3 years to rally up a movement? Well, let's go back in time to that setting, into that region of Palestine over 2,000 years ago, when we see that the Jews who have been given that promised land, and now they have fallen under subjection to the Romans. They have been over 100 years probably subject to the Romans, and they were politically oppressed. But the Romans have begun to compromise and say, you know what, y'all can continue to have y'all's nation within our nation, as long as y'all don't try to assert yourself above the Roman Caesar, the Roman emperor. And y'all can do certain things. Y'all can still have y'all's temple. You can practice your religion. You don't have to subject to the religion of the Romans. You can do it, but just don't try to overthrow the Roman government, and don't try to get your freedom. You are now subjected. And that was, for the Jews at the time, that was the perfect recipe for what they felt like was the perfect scene for the Messiah that had been promised to them through prophets. Many prophets had prophesied them when Messiah was coming. And that Messiah had mostly been prophesied as a political revolutionary, someone who was going to restore the kingdom of Israel, expand it to greater heights than Solomon did and David did, but also have a spiritual flair to them. So it was like this spiritual, political superhero. And they were split. Some people were like, well, he'll be very political. And some people were like, well, he'll also be very spiritual. And some people were like, well, what lineage will he come from? What bloodline will he come from? There was a lots of splits over these years. And there have been many people that have rose up and said, I'm the Messiah. And they didn't last. And then maybe 30 years pass, and people like, I think this person Messiah. They would start a revolution. They would be very political, start a revolution, and then they get arrested. And they didn't die. And Roman was like, nope, ain't got no Messiah. And it was keep coming. And then people were saying, you know, there ain't no Messiah coming, y'all. Our nation is just doomed. I was like, no, we're gonna keep hope. We're gonna keep hope. And then here comes Jesus. And Jesus is, you know, we hear the story. Mary is told, you're going to give birth to the Messiah. Now remember, every time at this point, when anytime heard the word Messiah, majority of people interpreted a political revolutionary figure. Somebody who was going to finally get Israel free from the political bondage of Rome. Nobody was slaves. It's just that they couldn't freely live the way they want to live. And even though they could be worshiped, the one creator had their temple, it was kind of like, you can have your temple, but you still are subject to the Roman emperor and the Roman as the son of God. Because the emperors at that time were seen as the sons of God. And so they're like, y'all can do y'all stuff. Just don't try to overcome. So anytime somebody heard the word Messiah, they was thinking of a political figure. So when Mary and Joseph say, your son is going to be the Messiah, they're like, okay, that makes sense. We are part of that bloodline. So they raised him, protected him. That's why when the king heard, oh, the Messiah is coming, and some wise men came, and these were people who respect, and they say, hey, we think this is the year for the Messiah. We think he was born. King was like, oh, snap. This must be real. Kill him.
The Roman guy said that?
The Jewish king.
The
Jewish king, because he was just like, oh, snap, this might really be real. We better kill him. And we heard the story of the children being killed, and Joseph and Mary had to flee to Egypt. Because the Jewish king, who was kind of like how he was subjected to the Romans, but they could still the Romans have become very compromising. You can even have a king, y'all can have y'all religion, y'all can have all that, but even that is still subjected to us. Because they were trying to appease them where they wouldn't keep rebelling. But the Jews still were like, no, we want to rule the way y'all rule. Like we want the Romans subjected to us. We want world domination. We won't get a Messiah that's going to lead us one day. And we will fight and conquer the Romans. And that's the idea that the Jews are expecting. This is the expectation. So we don't know what happened, Jesus' childhood. We don't have a record in the Bible of it. All we know is that the story picks up where John the Baptist, a prophet, is telling everybody the Messiah is coming. He is convincing, he is persuasive. He has this clarion call, and people are like, we've never heard. It's been so long since we've heard someone so powerfully, so persuasively proclaim that the Messiah and the kingdom is coming. And for years, he had got more famous and more famous. He had made the kings nervous. People were traveling from all over to hear John. And he was like, y'all better get baptized because the Messiah is coming and the kingdom is about to come upon us. Now, when they were saying kingdom, they were not thinking kingdom like we were thinking kingdom. They were thinking about a righteous political kingdom. But you better be cleansed and be ready because the Messiah is coming. And John is he's becoming the most famous religious figure. But the Jewish institutions, people are kind of suspect. They're kind of like, who is this man? Their little organization is kind of on the well, is he really prophesying something real? And everybody's going to get baptized. Well, Jesus, to start his ministry, he goes to get baptized by John. And if you can imagine the scene, John is famous, he is famous, this famous prophet. And everyone is just so excited that this prophet is telling them we are on the brink of finally receiving the Messiah who's going to overthrow these Romans and institute the reign of God through the kingdom of Israel all over the world. And what they knew that Rome ran the world, and they saw that should be the Jewish nation running the world. And all we need is that one right person. And John is saying they're on their way, they're coming. And everyone's being baptized, and John is just doing it kind of robotically for weeks and years. You baptize. And people will be standing in lines and watch people go. And here's this man who comes, and John stops. And when John stops, everybody else stops. And John hands him this act and said, you should baptize me. And everybody in the crowd is going, who the heck is that? And then Jesus says, no, let's go ahead and fulfill the prophecy. And John says, you are the Messiah. And everybody hears, they're like, oh, is this really him? Jesus is baptized. And some around say that they hear a voice from heaven say, this is my beloved son whom I'm well pleased. Jesus is about 30 years old. And from that point on, he starts his public ministry. Because now everybody goes to John, like, was that him? John like, yeah, that's him. That's the one the Spirit showed me. So John disciples, his core followers, other people, they let's do it. We ready, let's go. Man, it's a great day. Everybody's excited, like, the Messiah's here. Like, our days of being such this evil, political, tiring from these pagan Romans, it's coming to an end. Everybody's kind of suspect because they've had their hopes up for so many years. Like, is this really going to be another Messiah that can let us down? But then Jesus turns some water into wine. And they're like, oh, he is exactly who he is exactly who they say he is. He lit. This is it. They like, this is it. They're convinced now. But they don't stop there. Then he heals somebody. And they know this man could not walk. So they're like, oh, he is exactly who John said he was. But about a year passed, 2 years passed, and they're like, okay. When we we'll be taking over. What's the fight? What's going on? What's happening? And not only that, but John gets arrested because he's calling out sin still. And he attacks the Jewish king because the Jewish king has an affair, an adultery, kills somebody to get somebody's wife, one of those stories. And John the Baptist giving him a sermon on the river. He's like, y'all, this Jewish king is corrupt. And calls him out. And the king said, y'all go tell him he better quit talking about me. I'm gonna have him arrested and behead him. And John's like, are you submitting to him? Not only that, but the Messiah here. And the people, it's a big deal. John does not stop calling out the Jewish king and his adultery. And so the king has him arrested, puts him in prison. And after these years, remember, Jesus already been called the Messiah. Everyone is setting up like they're thinking this is it. Like this is going to be the catalyst. They arrested our most famous prophet, right? They got him in prison. Jesus said, let's go. And you said, huh? What? John in prison. And they like, let's do it. And he's like, let's go preach more about the Father in heaven. Yeah, that's cool, but John in prison. So John's in prison maybe like a year. And then it's like, the king is like, hey, he asked his wife, it's your birthday, I want to celebrate you. What do you want? And guess what the wife request is? She said, I want you to kill that prophet. I want his head on a platter. Because he embarrassed me, he ridiculed me, he talked about us, and that's what I want. I want vengeance on him for ridiculing and shaming us. He said, ugh, this might cause a riot. When people really love him. And she was like, but do you love me? And the word is out. Well, what can we do? Well, tell him to change his story. So John's in prison. His disciples come and check on him, and he's like, hey, did y'all let Jesus know? John is like, have y'all told him what's going on? And they was like, we told him. But matter of fact, not only did we tell him, but he hang out with sinners a lot. Sinners, what you mean? He don't really deal with religion. He's not really talking about the Romans. He actually hang out with Romans a lot. And John is like, say more. And they visiting John in prison, and they're letting John know, not only does he hang out more with Romans, he deal with people who ain't even really clean. And he actually don't really rock with us like that. So John say, oh, hey, maybe I was wrong. So John said, well, can y'all go back and ask him, is he the one or not? or should we need to be waiting for another one? Because I'm about to die in this prison. So they go back, and Jesus is doing the message, and they wait for him to finish, and they say, Jesus, John want to know this. Because it's been 2 years. John want to know, are you the one, or should they look for another one? And Jesus says, tell John this. Despite all the other stuff y'all going to tell him, that I'm hanging here, I'm cool with the Romans, tell John this. People are being healed, blind are seeing, the lame walk, and the poor have the gospel preached to them. That was a direct quote from Isaiah. It was a scripture from Isaiah. Go back and tell him that. And they rolled their eyes. Like, okay, whatever. And John dies. He gets beheaded. And there's still no political revolution. So people are really, really suspicious. So now they're like, okay, he can't be the Messiah. Like, John was really the man who told that Jesus is the Messiah, and Jesus let him die in the prison. What's going on? So now Jesus is faced with a lot of questioning, like, what are you doing? And that's when they're saying he ain't no Messiah. And everybody's like, but he's doing this, he's healing the sick, he's doing this. And what is the reply that they say? What is the logic? What is the haters or the doubters? What's their logic come up with to disprove that? Remember what was said about him? When everybody was like, he gotta be, because he's doing these things. And what did they say? Remember what they said? They say he's doing.
He's the Antichrist.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, they say Satan.
Oh, right. Yeah,
he's using the power of Satan.
Yeah, he's the devil. Right.
He's using the power of Satan to do this. He's using Beelzebub to do those powers.
Yeah.
Because there is just no way he can be a godly man and let John die and ain't even mention one thing about a political revolution. We've duped. This man is evil. But other people are saying, yeah, but when he talk, something stirs in my soul. And his disciples are like, just be patient. Be patient. Be patient. It gets to a point where his mother is concerned. Because she like, I know what I was told. She like, I know what that angel told me. So there's a scripture where Mary was told, Mary got Jesus' brothers and said, let's go talk to him. Because he may have forgotten what his mission is. So I'm about to step into mama role and get him together. And Jesus about to give this big important message, and a lot of people were showing up for this message, and they were like, let's see what's going on, because people were still showing up to hear. People want to know for themselves, should they trust him or not? The men will get there first, and they're trying to say, hey, let Jesus know his mother is here. Tell him his mother is here, and we need to have a talk. And they say, Jesus, your mother is here. And Jesus in front of her says, who is my mother? Who is my brother? Except anyone who does the will of my Father in heaven. And they say they are like him. Mary and his brothers are like, okay, he is, as the scripture says, they were convinced that he is beside himself. That fool's crazy. That fool's crazy. And now the disciples are kind of like torn, because they were like, well, maybe this just means he's going to be really loyal to us. So that's why James and John mother, remember this story where James and John mother go to him and they say, James and John mother go to Jesus and say, hey, when you come into power, which one of my sons can my sons, make sure my sons, let one sit on the right hand of you and left. Mothers are always trying to control stuff. And Jesus said, you think they can drink the cup that I'm about to drink? He said, oh, yeah. She said, I don't know. Because everybody is still thinking there's going to be a political thing. And they think that, man, this really shows his loyalty. The fact that he denounced his family even more shows his loyalty to the kingdom and his disciples, right? And everyone is beginning to think about like a political campaign. What position, what role are we going to have when he gets into power? Who's going to be his cabinet, right? You got Judas there. And, let's talk about Judas a little bit. Judas was the most educated of Jesus' disciples. That's why he was a treasurer. He was a treasurer because he knew letters, he knew arithmetic, he knew this stuff, right? He had came from that religious elite, the elite of those, and he had chose to attach himself to Jesus for this movement to the displeasure of his family. Because after a while, they were just like, you been bamboozled by that man. Jesus like, no. Judas was like, you watch. Wait till he come to power and make me chief treasurer, chief whatever. But 3 years, nothing happened. Nothing happened, y'all. Nothing. There was like not even a protest. There's not even the only protest that Jesus did was destroying the Jewish temple and throwing over their money changers. That was the only protest. There was not even like a political, like, they were like, what do you think about Caesar? And he was just like, give Caesar what is Caesar. Pay him for the taxes. Every time they would try him, right? They were just like, this man. And that's why the religious leaders said, he is an enemy. Like, it was like, he's an enemy, he's deceiving people, and we got to get rid of him. And they went out about feeling like he is going to surely, if he keeps going, and obviously he has no love for Jewish nation, he has no love for our prince, he has no love for our religion, he is about something completely that we don't even know what it is, but whatever it is, it can destroy us. We need to get rid of him because he's going to keep getting followers, and he's going to turn everybody away from our beloved culture and our beloved religion. So they go about trying to set him up. So the first thing they do is they come up with one of these plans where they say, the Roman says, hey, y'all can practice your religion, but this is what you can't do. You can't kill a citizen. So anybody who's a Jew is a citizen of Rome. So there were certain laws that the Jews could not practice. And one of them was stoning somebody to death. Because the Romans were like, I don't care. We don't care about your law. You ain't killing somebody. Y'all can't do that. And so there was a little uproar, like how boldly are you against Rome? Because if you're really religious, if you're really loyal to Moses, if you're really loyal to Moses and the law, you don't care what those Romans say. If somebody caught in sin, you're going to stone them to death.
Even if they're Roman.
Even if they're Roman. Because forget those Romans. We loyal to our way first. But it was the law. The Romans said, let us catch you stoning somebody. So they was like, they came up with this they said, we got a great idea. We're going to find somebody in the act of adultery, and we're going to take her to Jesus in front of everybody. And if Jesus says stone her, the Romans will arrest him. If he don't say stone her, it'll be proof right then and there that he is not about us. You remember this story? So they was like, we got him. They're like high fiving because he's caught in the catch-22. Because if he says stone her, the Romans going to come after him. If he say, don't stone her, he ain't really about it. And then we can use that to let the people know, this man don't care about your Jewish law. So they find somebody, they actually catch somebody in adultery. They bring her, right? Because the law said if a woman is caught in adultery, there's a witness of 3 or more people, stone her. This is what the law says. This is the law of Moses. That's what it was taught. So they bring her and they say, hey, we got Jesus, hey, he was in the middle of a sermon. They say, we got witnesses. We got 3 witnesses. And this lady was caught. They seen her caught in adultery. And the law of Moses said if she got witnesses, stone her. What do you say? Now they knew already, right? If he says, yep, okay, I guess we got to stone her. The Romans, they're going to go immediately tell the Romans, yo, that man, he killed the woman. They also know if he say, we don't apply to that law, we can tell the people he's a fake. They like, we got it. They like, this nigga's done. And they say, what do you say, G? What do you say? They're playing real innocent. What do you say, Jesus? And what did Jesus do?
Didn't he do that? He who cast first stone or something?
He did, but he did something else first. It says he writes in the sand.
Okay.
All right. So imagine this picture, right? Imagine this picture. So of Jesus writing in the sand, and they're trying to catch him up. So they go and they say to Jesus, tell us what to do. Welcome, y'all come on in. So they say, you've been caught. This lady's caught in adultery. The law of Moses says you got to stone her. Again, knowing that if he says yes to stoning her, the Romans are going to immediately arrest him, and he can be put to death for that. Because the Romans had a law and said, we don't care what your religion say, you do not kill nobody. But again, the Jews also know that if they can prove that he is not really serious about the Jewish law, then that way we know he's not Messiah. So again, they think they got him. So there he is. And they go to him and they say, Jesus, this lady, we got 3 witnesses. She was caught in adultery. The law says she needs to be stoned. What do you say? And it says Jesus goes and he writes in the sand. And this is how we know that Jesus can write, which is a whole nother story. Because the question is, why did not Jesus himself leave writings? Could he write? But we know he could write because it says he wrote some letters in the sand. So we know he could write. And he goes and it says he writes something in the sand. Now, we don't know what he wrote in that sand. But what it sounds like what happened was he wrote some of their personal business in that sand. Right? So paint this picture, right? They're trying to trap him up. He doesn't say anything. He just stops his little message and he goes and writes some things in the sand. And they look over. And it seems as if he wrote some stuff about them. He disclosed something. But what it's most likely he disclosed something to let them know, I see y'all. I know what y'all are doing. And I know who you are. So then he just, after he finished writing whatever he writes, which is probably most likely something about them, he looks down at what he wrote. They look down at what he wrote. And then he says, go ahead. Whoever is without sin, cast the first stone. And it says they did what? They all left and put their stones down. He got it. He said, go ahead, do it. Whoever nuts don't apply to. And they said they all looked over like, oh, shoot. we ain't do nothing with that. He said, go ahead, cast the first stone. And then that really got him upset. Because they was like, we can't. But they kept trying to catch him. Because they needed him to be stopped. Because to them, he was not the Messiah. He was not here to restore Israel to any type of glory. He was not here to really show he wasn't given any hope after 3 years that he was going to create a political revolution, that Israel was going to restore, right? And in Israel's mind, think about how great they saw this. Rome had pretty much conquered the world, right? Rome had done all the dirty work to conquer the world. All we needed was just somebody who can just take the Roman place, right? So it's like, all we had to do was just, if we overthrow Rome and put our Messiah in the place of the Roman emperor, we really will run the world for God's glory. That was the kind of Jewish ambition. Does that make sense to y'all? Like they were thinking, like, if we just had that one powerful person. But now they realize, most people realize that Jesus is not it. Because he's talking about something completely, he's just not emphasizing type of a political movement. And they needed something against him, but Jesus was so slick, right? Every time they would try to capture him or something, he could always turn again. They couldn't have anything proof against him. And finally, after those 3 years, he finally came out to his disciples and he let them know, after 3 years, there's not going to be a political kingdom. This whole thing is spiritual and in the hearts. My Father is establishing his kingdom in the hearts of man. And you talking about disappointment? They were very disappointed. Very disappointed. Because they were just like, I know that you can't be, we did not do all of this and there's no political kingdom. There's nothing to gain from it. So he challenged them, and that's what he says. Do y'all want to leave me? Do you want to abandon me? And one of them said, I lost every law now, might as well go through. And Judas said, I am out of this. Judas said, I'm not sticking around for this. And so Judas was the one who had some actual proof because he had got the actual secrets. So he was able to go to the religious authorities and give them the inside details of how Jesus actually told the truth of what he really thought about the Jewish nation. He gave them the details. It's speculated that Judas was doing this with this attempt to finally get Jesus to say, if we put Jesus into a corner, if we back him into a corner, then he will demonstrate his power. And then we can rally and build around a political movement. And the disciples were still kind of holding out hope that at any minute now, there still can be this political movement that can happen. So 3 years pass. Jesus is being really, his family, they have wrote him off. Mary has wrote him off. His family have wrote him off. The disciples are there, but they're kind of there just as Thomas said, because as Thomas said, we done lost it all, right? They're frustrated. They're defending him to people. No, he's not crazy, y'all. He's legit. He's never saying anything that he's God. He didn't say all of that. And then Jesus tells people, I am that I am. They're like, God, it's like this is turning so bad. How does this go so bad so quickly? Because there's a scene in that last year where Jesus was like, hey, they're going to kill you for blasphemy. And they ask him, are you Abraham? Who are you? How do you know this stuff? And he says, I am that I am. And the disciples really was like, they were really disheartened. And Lazarus is sick. Lazarus is Jesus' beneficiary. I don't know if y'all know that. So Lazarus was one of Jesus' main benefits. He had a ministry, a nonprofit ministry. So that's why there was such an emphasis when Lazarus got sick. And his sister said, hey, Lazarus, your beneficiary is sick. And Jesus did not move. And the disciples knew, like, hey, Lazarus paying our bills. And Jesus said, well, he's fine. And they said, okay, well, he's fine. Just letting you know, because, hey, you know, this is paying our bills. So this is all at the end. So then Jesus goes and he says, hey, y'all, we got to go back to Jerusalem. And Thomas said, they just tried to kill us there because of what you were saying. You were talking so foolish. They tried to kill us. Do you not remember how foolish you were talking and you tried to get us killed? He said, well, I got to go back because Lazarus is sleeping. We got to wake him up. Well, if he's asleep, that means he's doing good. Let him sleep. He said, no, he's died. He's dead. They're like, what? You let him die? And then he says, yes, and we must go back to wake him. And then the disciples reply, one of them says, hey, everybody, let's go back to Jerusalem and let's die. Because if we go back, they're gonna kill Lazarus, they're gonna kill us, they kill us all. This is all of them in this plan is kind of like this has turned out to be nothing. And they go back and we see Jesus raised, and Jesus says this line when Martha, the older sister comes, she goes, and the disciples, the servants say, here comes Jesus. Now he coming. And what does Martha say when he gets there? She's offended. She say what? Why'd you wait? We the main people. And then he asked, well, where's Mary? Where's your sister at? Right? Now remember, this was the sister who earlier he told everybody he told the disciples, he told his sister, she gets me. She understands what's going on here. There was a scene where there was a whole lot of confusion because at this point, these last years, everybody's really confused. Like they're really confused. It's like, what are you? Like, what are we doing here? It's like, what are we doing here? And so there was a scene where the Lazarus' younger sister was like, there was some questioning thing here, and they asked, what is she doing? And Jesus says, she understands what's really going on. So Jesus says, where is Mary? So Mary comes. And then Mary said the same thing to Jesus. She says, if you would have come when we asked you, my brother would not have died. It's like a slick, and then it says, Jesus wept. Because in that moment, he realized, dang, none of y'all get me. Y'all really, he got it in okay, I'm out here alone. I'm only telling y'all that just to paint the picture. So this is the context. He's alone. So now Judas is like, I gotta get out of here. Judas kind of has some hope, but he's like, I don't know. He's torn. Judas is not don't look at Judas as this bad person in his heart. Look at Judas as this person who was really, really disappointed. Just really all of my expectations are gone. But maybe, you know how you have this hope that maybe this last minute something's going to change? Well, now they're having a reception for Jesus at some people's house. And this lady come and she takes an expensive box of perfume. Remember this story? Today, that story I heard in seminary school, we learned it could be maybe valued like $1,000, like $1,000 worth of oil. Essential oils, essential oils are expensive. So think of it. Don't think of perfume. Think of essential oils. Yeah, and you know how much essential oils cost. I mean, we don't all we have to think about a box of essential oils, right? And you know how much essential oils work. So she poured the whole essential oils on Jesus' feet. And Judas goes, okay. Don't look at him as being evil. He's saying, Jesus, what are you doing? Like, literally, we don't have any money. We're trying to start a movement. We need stuff. We literally could sold this and have money for a movement. Are you okay? And what did Jesus say? And it says that he directly rebuked Judas. Only he says, you always gonna have the poor with you. But you ain't gonna have me with you only. And the disciples like, glad we didn't ask him that. The other ones are like, glad it wasn't us who said that. They like, glad I wasn't the one that said that. And Judas is like, oh, this man is really not a friend. He is not real. He is not valid. And I got something for him. So now it is a doomsday for the disciples. It is a doomsday for the believers. It's a doomsday for everybody. Everybody just like, what a disappointment. I mean, they're really like, this has turned out to be such a disappointment. Because they know how hard the Jewish culture is trying to get rid of him. He literally has a death warrant for him. It's like, y'all see him in these streets, y'all let us know. And Judas is like, say less. He right up there, he right over there, and this is the stuff he's saying. Because I'm tired, I'm done, I'm exhausted. And so when they go, now Judas is being put to the test. He betrays Jesus. Jesus is arrested. And he realizes now the disciples really, I'm not going to say they don't care, but they're just exhausted. They are exhausted. Again, 3 years of them waiting for this man to show forth his political power. 3 years they're waiting for him to show forth, to get them into what they thought their expectations was. His mother and his siblings, they do not believe, right? Even the core disciples are doubting him, right? Everyone is just kind of like, we don't know what's going on. And here is Jesus now, knowing now he's going to be arrested. And they already said, if we arrest you, we're going to demand for you to be crucified. And Jesus in that garden had a picture and had a scene, and Jesus starts praying. And he says, Father, if it's possible, take this cup from me. But nonetheless, not my will, thy will be done. Because in that moment, he realized, I'm probably going to be crucified. This is going down. And I have no idea if anything I did for these past 3 years will be received well. I don't know if it was received. I don't know if it's going to be remembered. But what he did know was how human nature was. He did know that human nature is probably going to feel defeated. They're probably going to feel rejected. They probably will not stick around because in their mind, like, this looks pretty bad. So there's this story where we can see Jesus really being like, God, Father, if it's possible, can we change this? Can we change this route? Because it looks like it's about to go down. He says, nonetheless, let it happen. Jesus is crucified. He's abandoned. Everybody leaves him, right? Even Peter, who just, his disciples, his core disciples. Yes, Mary had already left him. Mary and her brothers had already parted ways because they didn't see him living up the Messiah. She was there when he was dying, but she was there crying and weeping like, you did this. This did not have to go this way. She was there out of this idea of this did not have to, this is my baby boy. And if you would have just listened to me and lived up to the Messiah like I was told you to be, you wouldn't be here on this cross right now. And there was John, his disciples, and everybody's disappointed. This is a disappointment. Everybody, I'm trying to sell you all the scene. To everybody, this was like, dang, this did not have to go down this way. You didn't have to do this. It didn't have to be this way. Everybody, like, it didn't have to go like this. And Jesus is still, he's still on that cross, preaching peace and love. Father, forgive me. Right?
But they know not what they do.
He's still preaching peace and love. And everybody just like, can you imagine how like over it they are? And they're mocking him, and the disciples. So Peter, at this point, it's why Peter. That's when that lady said, "Oh, to Peter, you one of his disciples." And what does the Bible say Peter does? But not only it says what he denied her, he cursed. It says he cursed at her because he is. I'm trying to paint the picture, the context. He is disappointed. He's pissed off. He's pissed off at Jesus. He's pissed off this whole story. So that's why he's just like, I don't know him. And she's like, no. I'm pretty sure you was out there with you. I'm pretty sure that was you. And he just said, he cursed at her, woman. And it may have not been, if you go back and read it, it may have not been like a lie denial. It was more so like a person saying, yeah, but that ain't who I was. That ain't who I was following. Like, I literally don't, like, it's not like a denial, like a hiding denial, but it was more so like, no, I don't know him. That wasn't who I signed up for. That was not who I was trying to follow. Listen to me. I do not rock with him. Not that version of him. That was not the version. I am not dumb and stupid. I don't know what this was. And then we know what happened. And to them, it's like, that's it. That's the story. We wasted 3 years. Let's go back fishing. Let's go back to our careers. It's just kind of like, what was this all about? Am I pulling y'all into it? It's just like this real, like, what was all of that? Like, golly, this was such a disappointment. And they're like, well, let's at least the women are like, you know what, we still gotta take care of it. The men are like, really like, we could care less. That's why Thomas had packed up, gone all the way back to his hometown. They were nowhere to be found. But the women were like, we at least got honored, man. When they go and he's not there, they're like, dang, they lost him, whatever. And then Jesus shows up. He's resurrected. Do you know how quickly, put yourself in their situations, how deflated, defeated, do y'all remember? I don't want to get political here, but I'm going to get political. I felt horrible the day of the election results. Did anybody else feel horrible? I felt so horrible. It was so heavy and depressing when I found out Kamala Harris was not electing Donald Trump. I was deflated. And that had only been from 3-month political campaign, give or less. Can y'all imagine how deflated all of his followers were? How defeated they felt that this is it. It was not a Messiah. There was nothing that was here. He's dead. And then to go from that and to here, y'all, this man is alive. This man is alive. Don't get my hopes up there saying, don't play with me. That's what Peter said. What Peter said, don't play with me. Don't play with me, Mary. Don't play with me. Don't play with my feelings today. She's like, no. I saw him. And he was like, and it says he just took off running. Because there's this idea of, I don't have to sit here and be deflected. I don't have to sit here and be rejected. And I don't have to take on the humiliation of realizing I followed somebody that was a failure. There's a hope that I wasn't stupid. I wasn't dumb. I don't have to be humiliated. And sure enough, they see him. And they're telling everybody, he's here, he's risen, we back. I knew I was right. But then people, oops, I forgot. Yeah, I did. Sorry, I did kind of deny you. So everybody's excited. Everybody is so excited. Can y'all get that excitement? Can you get how just mind blowing that is to realize you don't have to sit here. Your leader is not, they finally tell Thomas, and Thomas is just like, what did Thomas say? Thomas said, y'all ain't gonna play with my feelings today. If I do not touch that man, if I don't see that nail, if I don't put my hand in that hole, if I don't see him, I am not believing any of this. And then Jesus shows up and he said, here, come. It's me. And he said, oh, you are what we you are what we thought. I'm telling y'all that story because I wanted to set y'all up to see that this is what happened, and this is why the resurrection became so powerful. The resurrection became a symbol that made us feel not silly for trusting in the truth. And so the whole message that Jesus preached for 3 years, guess what happened to it? It got replaced by the message of the resurrection. So the whole message, the whole story, the whole idea, everything that he was teaching for 3 years, it kind of got put on the back burner for the story of the resurrection. Because the resurrection became more powerful, it became more beautiful to tell than the actual gospel that Jesus was preaching. The actual truth that Jesus was preaching became kind of secondary. It took a backseat to the story of the resurrection. Then it became, let's proclaim that now we have proof, because our human mind likes proof, that he was the Messiah after all, because he resurrected. And then for all those years, we now have lost the actual 3-year message that Jesus was teaching them. When he says, I am the way, I am the truth, and I am the life. And that way is to be surrendered to the Holy Spirit day by day, moment by moment, no matter what. That is the way. That's how Jesus lived. And the story of the cross is actually the story of, it don't matter how much failure it looked like. It don't matter how much disappointment it looked like. It don't matter if you're going to lose everybody. It don't matter if they're doing evil. Don't return evil for evil, because that's what Peter was trying to do. Remember when that sword came and Peter took out his sword and cut that man ear off? Because Jesus' whole message for 3 years was, we don't return evil for evil. So he was angry at Peter, and this is why Peter denied him. Because he rebuked Peter like, Peter, what are you doing? Put that sword away. Didn't I tell you for 3 years we do not overcome evil with evil? And Peter's like, yeah, you said it then, but we about to they about to put you on the cross. He's like, it don't matter. We got to stick to the way. The way is we trust the obedience of the Holy Spirit, and we do not overcome evil with evil. And Peter's like, well, I ain't with it that far. I'm with it in theory, but I'm not with it that far. Because the idea is that Jesus was trying to demonstrate to them and to us, the way is this. You commit to the path of the Holy Spirit, even if it means you're going to be rejected. You're going to lose every single body. You're going to look like a big old disappointment. But nonetheless, you stay committed to that truth, and you do not use evil to overcome evil. Because one of the biggest myths of our human history is that we really feel like we must match evil with evil. And this is the power of all transformations in this society. We want our world to evolve and change. The first thing we have to let go of is this idea of returning evil for evil. If they were evil, I got to match with them. Because Jesus taught it, Paul reiterated, you cannot bring about good on this planet by evil. Everyone entertains this secret notion that we can do good by bringing about evil. Right? What's happening in this world right now? Our president is declaring over and over again, we're going to bring about good by doing evil. It is that right there is the root of all the historical issues throughout time. Throughout time, that one little notion, I'm going to do this evil deed to bring about good. It's innocent, right? It's innocent, right? But I'm going to steal to feed my family. I'm going to take from this house to feed my family. Well, they got enough stuff. So yes, I'm going to do this evil, but I'm going to do it to bring about good. And we justify it over and over again, right? I'm sure all of us in this room have done something like, they got clean napkins. Like this idea of, I'm going to violate this law because I'm doing it for a good cause. It is ingrained in us over and over again that feel like, no, I got to teach them a lesson. And so there's this refusal to follow the way of surrender. There's a refusal to follow this way of when Jesus says, when they said, because at the end, I got to go back and say this really quick. When they were getting to the end, they were very frustrated. And Jesus started telling them, hey, I'm about to go away. He didn't say he was going to die on the cross. He just says, my time is coming to an end. I hope y'all got it. And I hope y'all are ready to go and preach my gospel. Remember, he kept telling them, I want y'all to go preach my gospel. There was a gospel message that wasn't emphasizing the resurrection. There was a gospel message that was not emphasizing the resurrection. He was telling them, this is what I'm training y'all for. Go out. I want y'all to make sure y'all preach this because I'm going away. But they were like, without the kingdom, there's not going to be a political power, a regimen change. No, there's not going to be a regimen change political, but in your heart. And they said, where are you going? He said, y'all know where I'm going. I'm going, you know the way. I'm going to the Father. He's like, I've taught y'all these things for 3 years. And we hear Philip and Thomas say, Jesus, I'm tired. I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know this. I don't know. And Jesus says, hey, have you seen me? I am the way. I am the truth. I am the life. He wasn't saying that the way it's interpreted, that he is the only way to salvation. He, believing in him that he's the Son of God, is the way to salvation. He was saying, this life that y'all saw me live these 3 years, this life of only being committed to the Spirit, the way is this. You commit to the Holy Spirit guidance day to day. You commit to living the truth in the face of rejection, in the face of failure. I did not waver. One time did y'all see me waver because it looked like something I may be rejected, I may be abandoned, I may fear loss. I did not waver. That's the way. The truth is just right here. Our Father in heaven is good and only committed to our good. Have I not preached over and over and over and over again this anchoring truth? Our Father is good. He takes care of all of our needs. He preached that. He preached that over and over and over again. The Father is good. The Father is loving. The Father is mercy. He forgives. That's the truth that you've got to be anchored in. I have showed y'all that. Y'all have seen me demonstrate nothing but mercy. And here is the life I was committed to. I respected everybody's free will. I respected their free will. I respected their dignity. And I sought to meet the needs of individuals where they were at. Even I turned water to wine. I met everybody's needs. I met everybody was at. That is the life. The truth, the way is I'm committed to living by the truth any means necessary, no matter if it leads to failure, rejection, abandonment. I do not overcome evil with evil. I respect people's free will. Whether they receive me, they don't receive me. That is the life I'm committed to. That's the truth. That's the way. That's the life. And I'm going to be doing it till the end, even if it puts me on a cross. And that's what he proclaimed. That's the gospel. The gospel is this. The truth could be committed in our lives to being obedient to the Spirit no matter what. Obedient to the truth. Because here's what happens, what Jesus was trying to demonstrate in the power of the resurrection. Here's where the true power of the cross resurrection comes in. There's this song that I played on my commercial. It's by Benson Boone. And it's called Beautiful Things. And that song has just haunted me. But that song captures the message that Jesus was here to address. So anybody know that song? Y'all remember that song, Beautiful Things by Benson Boone? Well, the song is he's basically singing the song. He says, it starts off by him saying, I've had a rough 4 years. It's been a rough life. I haven't had a Christmas like this in a long time. I have a girl that my family finally loves, that I love, and I am found. He said, I got peace, I got happiness. He says, but somehow I'm laying in that bed and I am so afraid that I know that God gave it to me, and I'm so afraid he's going to take it away. And then the chorus changes, and then we hear the chorus, he says, God, he prays out, please don't take away these beautiful things that I got. And he goes again, and in the next line he goes and he says, I got so much this, I'm so hopeful, I feel hopeful. And he says, but yet I am nervous. I'm so nervous I can't sleep at night because he says, I know that God gives me this, but I'm so afraid he's going to take it away. So he begs out in the chorus. He says, please, God, don't take away these beautiful things that I got. Because what Jesus was showing through the cross and through his way is that none of us here in this room right now feels bad about living the truth. That sounds good, right? Follow the truth till the end. Believe in God, power. Commit to certain people. None of us here feels like that sounds horrible, right? Is anybody here that feels like, how many of you here are like, yeah, that sounds good. That sounds like living life. Commit to follow the needs of people. Commit to the truth day to day. Trust that God is the Lord's my shepherd, I shall not want. It sounds good until we're threatened with loss. It sounds good until somebody say, you keep that path, you're going to lose everything you got. It sounds good until your mind starts calculating, yeah, you keep this up and you let them keep being evil, you're not going to have nothing. When we're threatened with loss, when we're threatened with material loss, when we're threatened with losing our reputation, when we're threatened with losing the beautiful things we got, we will quickly throw that truth to the side. Right? We quickly then, I can't serve them. We're not serving, and now we have our doubt. So it's in the face of loss, right? It's the face of loss, the face of rejection, the face of destruction, that is what gets us off. What Jesus knew is that, hey, y'all, I've got to demonstrate something for you all. Here's the way to life. Being committed to the truth, being surrendered to believing this God is your Father, and taking care of the needs of people through their free will, respecting their free will and their dignity. And none of that sounds good, right? I respect people's free will and dignity. But like we said, until they try me, and when they try me, I'm going to bring it back. I'm going to give them evil for evil. And it's always in the face of the idea that these beautiful things that we got, we're going to lose them, that's what we abandon. And the cross, on our planet, we live in a world where nature is bringing us temporary things. We live in a world where we got free will of other people. So we're constantly bringing this idea. We got free will where people are going to reject and threaten us. We got internal conflict, and we still have to be committed to the way, the truth, and the life. And it's in that moment when the way that you're committed to, the truth that you're committed to, it's in that moment that you're threatened with loss, but you're still committed. That is what a cross is. Because on earth, no one can be committed to truth. No one can be loyal to their faith. And no one can be committed to respecting the free will of others without facing some type of cross. Because when you're committed to that cross, you are going to be threatened with losing the beautiful things that you got. And that's the story of the cross and the resurrection. Because Jesus lost. He lost his reputation. He lost his followers. But it just doesn't, the cross is not just ending with loss. It's actually still, there's a power of resurrection. Because whatever you have lost to truth, whatever you have lost because of your faith, whatever you've lost because you have honored the free will, the dignity of others, whatever you lost, if you've done it if you anchored into a cross because of truth, the power of the resurrection brings us redemption, it brings us restoration, and it brings us renewal. And the power of the resurrection is real. It is real. That's the whole story of the resurrection. It's not this idea to prove Jesus is God. It's not this idea that we don't have to feel humiliated anymore because our Savior was resurrected. It's this idea that Jesus wanted to show God's power to resurrect, to redeem, to restore, to bring back is real. Anytime you live committed to the truth, you don't have to be threatened with loss. Because if that is, it's all we got to do is threaten you with loss, I can keep you a slave forever. We were talking this other day, me and Jamel, yesterday about the power of when people say, no, I'm not tolerating it at my job, right? Because an employee know, well, who's going to hire you? You leave now, like think about all these movements where people manipulate people with loss, whether they're celebrities in Hollywood, your job, your employee. And if you don't have the courage to say, no, I'm going to honor the truth. And if I have to lose these things, so be it. And you can do that if you do it in truth because of the power of the resurrection. You will be redeemed. What you lose will always be restored. The whole idea of Jesus' resurrection is the proof of the cosmic reality of the power of resurrection. If something is lost from you because of your truth, because of your commitment to the way, because of your commitment to living a life that Jesus lived, living, trusting the Father's goodness, if you lose anything, if you suffer any ruin, if you suffer any humiliation, there's always the power of the resurrection that will redeem you, restore you, and bring you renewal. And therefore, you can stay committed. You do not have to return evil for evil. You do not have to sacrifice your truth. Instead, you can bear your cross and say, look, this is my truth. I have to stay in this truth. If you have to leave me, leave me. If I'm not going to resist your evil, I'm going to honor your free will. If you have to take whatever you have to do, because we actually have the power of the resurrection, which is a cosmic reality. It is a law. Anything lost to truth, anything lost because of your faith will be returned. it will be given back. And that is why the resurrection carries real weight. It's not really so much about just getting rid of our humiliation. Jesus was God, he raised him in bed, but it shows us the reality of there is a power of resurrection. We do not have to live like that song that Benson Boone sung. We don't have to be nervous that something's going to be lost. We don't have to cling. We don't have to be worried. Because no matter how much we get what we want, if we don't have the belief in the power of resurrection, if we don't know how to be committed to the truth, we're always threatened. We're always waiting for it to be lost. We're never going to be at peace because we're always going to be like, oh my God, I got everything I want. It might be lost tomorrow. But as long as we know there's a power of resurrection, we say, you know what, don't matter. Today, I'm going to live in truth. I'm going to be committed to the way, and I'm going to trust that the power of the resurrection, that same power that resurrected Jesus, because he was committed to the truth, is that same power to resurrect whatever I've lost in my life. I just gotta stay forward and be committed to it. And that is the beautiful power of the resurrection and the cross. If you let that cross happen to you because of your truth, keep going. Whatever is lost, whatever humiliation, whatever failure, apparent failure comes, whatever abandonment happens to you, everything will be restored, redeemed, and renewed if you stay committed to it. Thank y'all for coming today.
Amen.
And hearing the power of the resurrection. All right, I'm gonna do a quick prayer for us. I also invite anybody that want to take part of some communion. That if you want to, I will encourage you to grab a piece of bread, and really quickly we'll read this piece right here. It's there's sheets over there. Y'all can share them on the table. And this is to receive anybody that feels like you're angry at yourself when you sacrifice your truth. If you have realized if y'all can